Live from Brussels, this is The Late Late Show with Jeff Pedley, and you are listening live.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to The Late Late Show with Jeff Pedley. It's a new year, time for a new me. I'm going to be sharing with you tonight some of my New Year's resolutions as an English teacher. As usual, you can keep in touch with us with the handle at TT Radio Official. I would love to hear your New Year's resolutions as well, and I'm so glad that you're joining me here tonight.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org or join in the conversation by downloading the Podbean app and following Teachers Talk Radio. #TT Radio.
Okay, so it's Thursday the 5th of January 2023. Feels a bit weird saying that, doesn't it? And thank you for joining me for my first ever solo show. Tonight I'm going to explore some of my own personal New Year's resolutions as an English teacher, specifically as an English teacher. And I'm sat here in my office on the outskirts of Brussels, a little town called Aalst in Flanders, on the outskirts of Brussels, and it's grey, it's rainy outside, but I would love to hear from people. You're more than welcome to join us on Twitter, at TT Radio Official. Likewise, you can send messages or tweets to my personal handle, which is at Jeff _Pedley, JEFF_PEDLEY, and I'll try and read out some messages as well. Likewise, you might be listening on the Podbean app. I'm more than happy to share some texts if you would like to share with us as well what your New Year's Eve resolutions are as well. However, before I start properly today, I think it is worthwhile having a little, putting my own 2 cents in anyway, to the maths until 18 debate that's popped up. I'm sure this is going to be discussed heavily on the station and in other channels on Twitter as well over the next few weeks, months, maybe years. I did a poll on Twitter, quite simply, maths until 18, and the options were great idea, great but not practical, neutral opinion, or bad on all fronts. Now, I have about 10,000 followers, I think, on Twitter. Not that it matters at all, but and what I'm trying to say is that a lot of them are teachers or within the education profession as well. 50% of people said bad on all fronts. 28% great but not practical. About 14% have a neutral opinion, and 8% say it's a great idea. I think my favourite, a wide spectrum of ideas here and opinions. There's a counsellor in Thurrock, Abby Akinbuhu, who at Councillor Abby tweeted, "Only lazy young people will kick against it. If anyone wants to give themselves more options in the future, they must be prepared to be competitive in the market world." Ranging from, which I do agree with to a degree, all the way to Bruce Henderson, at Bruce Henderson, his handle, saying there are many careers where the basic maths achieved by the age 16 is more than sufficient, and on the basis that many can leave school at 16, this is just another pointless spouting designed to distract. I actually retweeted somebody as well, I'll just find this here, who I was particularly in consensus with. Lou, at Lou Carr 79, said, "Rishi is looking at this all wrong. Invest in early years and the foundations of learning. Research shows that children need that solid start in school, not a couple of extra lessons foisted on them past 16. It's also interesting to see this new proposal in the context of the school that I work in here in Brussels. Now, as I've said a few times on my show, I work for the European school system, which is basically the European Union branch of education. There's 13 European schools scattered across Europe, which teach the sons and daughters of EU workers, sometimes NATO and UN as well, when there's space. And all students at this school, it is very linguistically focused, but all students on this school head towards the European Baccalaureate at 18. Now, this qualification actually encompasses at least 10 different subjects, with maths always being a part of that, either 4 or 6 sessions per week. And despite of all of the lessons or the subjects that they have to take at 16 to 18, they don't complain too much about having to do the maths. I mean, they can lessen the pain with dropping to 4 sessions rather than 6, as I've said. All of the students generally go off on an academic direction. I'd say 99% of them go off to university or a gap year at the end of 18, and students who are not going down that path normally have dropped out of this school before then, or not been allowed to continue the year if their academic ability hasn't kept up. So it's a very interesting system, a very different system from what I went through myself when I was only taking 4 down to 3 A-levels or so, mostly humanities based. I took English combined, history, geography and sociology, so very humanities based. And myself, I don't think I would have enjoyed taking maths on, but I do see the value in it completely. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, in Belgium, well, specifically Flanders, there's a system where at 15, 14, you go down, you basically choose the pathway that you're going to take at a very, an earlier age than the UK anyway. So, for example, you will go vocational, creative or academic. You will still learn maths in some capacity within that, but again, it's more tailored to your ultimate route that you're going down. And I think for me, that's where I hope this announcement from Rishi Sunak ends up, really, that there's not a one size fits all doing maths at the end of the year all the way to 18, when some students are not necessarily going to be using some aspects of that maths in their careers afterwards. And I really hope that there's a deviation between the more functional maths that's required and then perhaps the more academic maths that may be needed for other careers as well. But anyway, just my little brief thoughts on that before we start properly tonight. So, 2023. Here we are. Can I clarify how many years I've been teaching now? Because my Alzheimer's is starting to get to me. So, I said that I was in my 13th year of teaching. However, I'm not too sure if that's true. So, in 2007 to 2009, I was a teaching assistant and did a bit of cover teaching, but not fully as a teacher, up in a school in East Yorkshire. 2008, I started my degree in the University of Cumbria, and I did the old English education, the English education BA Honours, which is pretty similar to the old BEd, really, where you do your placements alongside your degree at the same time. So I did that for 3 years, graduated 2011, so technically, officially, 2011, what's that? It gives me my 11th or 12th year of teaching now, really. However, 2 years as a cover teacher, a year in 2003 as well. I actually worked in New Zealand at a all-boys Catholic boarding school as a gap year when I was 18 years old, doing a bit of teaching assistant, really, working with the PE department. So, actually working in schools, this is my 17th or 18th year. However, as a teacher, let's say 11th, 12th years. Anyway, by the by, let's make a start of these resolutions. I'd also like to add as well that having a work-life balance is not going to be on my resolutions list this year for the first time in many a year, because, to be honest, I've finally been lucky enough to work in a school which has got the balance quite right. We only have a few meetings a year. We don't have hardly any emails outside of time, and I've got a long commute every day. Please don't think it's all amazing for me. I've got about 3 hours every day, sometimes 3 to 4 hours every day I use as a commute. But that's normally when I get my work done, really, sat on the train. But at the same time, I'm in a very privileged position where I don't have to put that on my list anymore, despite it being on my list for many, many years. So, my first New Year's resolution as an English teacher, 2023, has got to be, for me, to improve the quality of texts and the range of texts that I deliver at Key Stage 3. Now, I have the same class when you get a class at Year 7 in this system, or S1 as it's called, Secondary 1, you have them for 3 years, and there are no prescribed books that you have to do within the department. You are completely free to choose whatever you want. And students will go off and buy the texts themselves. Now, this is a blessing and a curse, because basically I've complained for so many years of having books thrust upon me. The amount of times I've taught holes and some Michael Morpurgo books that I haven't really particularly enjoyed. I didn't really enjoy teaching Warhorse to Year 7 despite faking enthusiasm. I haven't really enjoyed, I think my least favourite book I've ever taught was Kit's Wilderness, which you might remember from my discussion with the head of Lancaster Grammar a few months ago on a show. But it's crazy now. I've got an absolute blank slate, a clean piece of paper to really go and teach whatever I want. Now, this poses a lot of problems as well. How far should I deviate from the established canon? And to be honest, I'm quite happy with going quite far away from it. You may have seen a tweet that I did out recently, a book called This is the Canon. I think it came out last year by Deirdre Osborne and a few others. And basically, it's 50 books to decolonise the canon, books that you should have read that have just not been given priority. I'm really looking forward to reading this as well. Of course, from Key Stage 3 point of view, it might not be too helpful, but it's going to definitely put me in some directions. And by the way, I say Key Stage 3, it might not be too helpful. I do teach L2 learners, or sometimes L3 learners of English, students who have English as a second or third language in English. However, at the same time, their ability is astounding. And I don't really teach much differently from how I did when I taught in Essex or Yorkshire or Lancashire or Cumbria. And like I say, in some of these books which might be more geared towards young adults or like I say, young academic adults, I still will have a go at. I've also been very impressed with a website, I guess, a website that's been set up by, I don't know the person's name actually, but I know the Twitter handle's @School Reading List, and I'm just going to have a quick have a look in live time now at this, because it's schoolreadinglist.co.uk. Again, it doesn't say who's composed these lists, but it's an amazing recommended book list. I'm going Cumbria. Book lists for children and schools all the way from early years up to Key Stage 5. And I'm really interested in having a look through, ordering some of these books on Amazon, especially looking at the books that they prescribe or suggest, not prescribe, for Year 7, Year 8, Year 9. Just having a look through here. Wink by Rob Harrell, Madam Doubtfire by Adam Fine, and Licky Bit by Alex Wheatle. Now, there's some really... Basically, there's a lot of books in here that I haven't come across before, and that's going to be my priority, to get these books ordered and to really stretch and challenge at Key Stage 3 some of the books that I have. I don't see my students for a massive amount of time. I only see them 3 hours a week, a decent amount of time. But again, it's more than enough to do some really good text over the year. Please notice it might be sat there going 3 hours and you can't even get through these things. Please note that there's a heavy focus on grammar within this within the system that I'm in. Nothing like ever I've encountered before in the UK. And again, possibly an hour's worth of those lessons need to be dedicated to sentence structure and grammatical construction, definitely. But anyway, that's something that I am really going to focus on, making sure that I have a greater breadth and depth at Key Stage 3 for reading. And I'd love to hear some people's suggestions as well of books that they've found particularly useful or interesting, engaging over the last few years. Books that I've really enjoyed that, again, I'm using at the moment, but I'm happy to move away from. A Monster Calls has gone down really well with my Year 7 classes, and again, an excellent movie of that's come out very recently, which is really nice for some comparative work. I taught that in Essex. Amazing Key Stage 3 coordinator that I had there put a scheme together, which I really, really enjoyed. I still use that, actually. I still use that even as second language learners. I also, again, this is a bit of a legacy from a few years ago, but the Declaration, I do enjoy this text. I do find it's maybe a little bit too... it's one of those books where the language is quite easy, but... And the themes are maybe quite grown up. So I don't know. It's a bit of a mixture. It's in the same vein as Hunger Games or so. If you haven't read The Declaration by Marley, I would definitely have a read of it. But anyway, that's going to be something that I'm going to have a look at this year. Definitely Key Stage 3 text number 2. And again, I'm saying this from an English teacher point of view, but of course all teachers can maybe prescribe to this idea as well. But the idea of starting all lessons with key vocabulary and concepts. Again, I'm sure this is embedded in most schools, and I'm sure that many teachers do this already. And I'm quite honest and open to say that I don't always have the key vocabulary clearly marked on the board, especially when I'm doing something, maybe some narrative work or whatever. I need to be, or definitely grammatical, and I need to be a lot clearer with the key vocabulary on the board. I worked in an academy in Essex for going on 7 years or so, and in the classroom there were 30 non-negotiables, ranging from the absurd to the really, really useful, and some things that I've carried forward. For example, some maybe the more absurd ideas were that you had to, when a student was talking, they had to stand up, which practically wasn't always the easiest. All the way to enforcing certain activities that you had to do within each lesson, so for example, you had to do marking within every lesson, which didn't always fit, etc. Like over-the-shoulder marking. However, one thing that I did really appreciate from working at this school was the priority they paid. They paid to put in key vocabulary on the board in all classes, in all groups, in all subjects, and they brought, and I know a lot of schools do this, the tier 2, tier 3 vocabulary, and again, I of course more general vocabulary, and then your more subject specific vocabulary, and it's something that I really need to get back to. Again, I've got complete freedom in the lessons that I have now, and the benefits of having that key vocabulary up on the board is, so again, it's such a simple thing, but I just need to get back into that habit of doing it. Something that I find useful is whenever I'm studying a text. So, for example, I'm studying Americana at the moment by Adichie with my basically A-level equivalent groups, is going through the study guides and just... And retrieving key vocabulary. And I know this sounds so obvious, but there's been CPD sessions where I've been sat in a room with a blank sheet of paper going, write down all of the key vocabulary tiered for I don't know, Macbeth. And we sat there with a blank sheet of paper trying to scrabble it. Of course we're experienced, of course we're experts, but again, it's rewriting the wheel again, or, rewriting the wheel, making the wheel from scratch. And all of these key vocabulary and these key words are all within study guides and analysis, Spark Notes, etc., etc. Go through and find the most difficult words for out there and then tier them afterwards. But again, that's something that I'm going to really focus on every lesson. I promise you can hold me to account of this. Every lesson, key vocabulary on the board, key concepts on the board for all lessons, all groups. And I teach sociology as well. I teach Year 12 and Year 13 sociology. I will be doing it for them sessions as well. You can hold me to account. Just like you can hold me to account for saying them sessions rather than those sessions and correcting my vocabulary. Anyway, blame it on the Yorkshire accent. Yeah, it's Yorkshire dialect. That's my excuse anyway. Right, anyway, number three. Number 3 has to be more focus on technology from my point of view. Now, again, specifically from an English point of view, I've definitely been forced to use technology a lot more with lockdown, with COVID. My wife, or my girlfriend at the time, she bought an iPad. She's a designer and she bought an iPad. I was so impressed by it. I went out and I bought an iPad myself as well, and an Apple Pencil. And oh my God, it has changed my life. I use my iPad all the time now, from writing a diary at home and my personal finances. I put everything on my iPad, all the way to every single lesson I teach. I will use the iPad in some shape or form, always by sharing the screen and yeah, like I have all the textbooks that the students use as PDFs. It's all instantly. If we're going through answers, etc., if we're looking at modelling, everything goes on that board and shared from the PDF. If students have great work, it's a quick picture, and then I can be annotating it as I'm walking around the classroom. Having an iPad and sharing a screen has changed my life from an English teacher point of view. It kind of hints at something else that I'm going to explore in a bit more detail later on, but the idea of modelling as well, or the frequency of modelling and the depth that I go into with my modelling. If students are doing exams, I sometimes do the exam with them. Not always on display sharing the screen. It's not the best, whatever, but I will sit and I will write their exam paper with them, and I'll do it on my iPad, as I say, and I've got a handwritten version there. It's sometimes nice to see the handwritten version that you submit as a teacher, and not the pristine, typed up Word version that you like to distribute as a model essay. And I make a point as well to not rub anything out, to cross it out as it would do if it was written by a pen. But anyway, an iPad and the programs I have there, GoodNotes, by the way, has completely changed the way that I teach, and I absolutely adore that. But I am very, very wary that there is so much more potential when it comes to using technology with the English classroom. And I don't know where to start, really. And again, if anyone has any suggestions or any places for me to look at, then please go for it. I am intrigued at the minute with this artificial intelligence chat bot and chat system that's arisen in the last few months, years or so. I know we've got a programme with Tom Rogers on Monday all about this. And yeah, I asked it the other day to write an essay. It was something quite specific for a book we'd been written. How do characters in Americana overcome prejudice? And yeah, and the essay was written, and I checked the plagiarism, and I was completely blown away that students can use the AI can now create essays from scratch that are non-plagiarised. And how does that fit into my future English teaching? We can't battle against it. I know there's some schools that are banning this chat AI, but we can't battle against it. It's going to become more and more prevalent. But how does that fit into our English teaching? How am I teaching students to be able to basically unpick and analyse the work that's been put in front of them, and what skills am I using even to try and work out that this work hasn't been plagiarised when an able student submits it. And so chat AI is something I'm extremely interested in learning more about. But however, when it comes to technology, I think I am going to actively this year learn more about the metaverse, and specifically from an English teaching point of view. I don't know at this moment in time how the metaverse can massively enhance my English teaching. I understand from a literature point of view, contextually, historically, socially, there are some immersive environments, etc. I know that when it comes to the techniques itself and activities, there's the format that you're delivering the activities will be completely enhanced by having an immersive experience. But how does that help? How does that help our English students? How is the metaverse going to help my English students improve their writing? How is the metaverse going to help my English students improve their reading? I am more than aware, or I'm certain that there are people out there with far more intelligence than me who already know some of the answers to these questions. I don't, and people around me are not too short this moment in time as well, who I work and I teach with. I teach in a school which has chalkboards, for God's sakes, in some classrooms, and that's no lie. And so, number 3. My New Year's resolution is to learn of how I can use technology in the English classroom. And specifically, I'm going to read more about the metaverse and how that can aid language and literature learning. Number 4. Now, on Twitter, at Miss J.R. Edwards, tweeted, I know lots of people follow me because I'm an English teacher, but I haven't been tweeting about English teaching. My New Year's resolution is to share at least one resource or blog or idea a month. It won't be anything revolutionary, I'm sure, but every little helps. And I think I'm going to steal that one myself as well, because Twitter has its ups and downs. I try to avoid the spats as much as I can. However, sometimes I do get sucked into these things. I'll explain one in a moment, actually. But I do think Twitter is amazing, especially for sharing resources. I love it when somebody puts a resource out and then you see, and you know it's a good resource, and you know it's a niche or filled a gap, fit in a niche, and then you have like 100, 200 people afterwards saying, can you send me email? Can you send me the resource? Can you send me the resource? So here's my email. And as funny as I think that is, I think it's absolutely amazing, And I think I've been one of those people as well who's DM'd someone with my email. Please, can you send me this? But, as I said earlier, I'm in my 13th year of teaching now, so 30. Oh no, I said 11th or 12th, didn't I? Anyway, I'm going to adopt that one as well. I'm going to be a lot more open with my resources on Twitter, because I'm already pretty generous when it comes to the department. There's definitely more I could do, definitely. But at the same time, I'm always there and I'm always around. But when it comes to Twitter, I do like a poll, don't I? I like a poll. I like a retweet, but I'm not too good at sharing my resources. Therefore, number 4, to share. I'm going to steal Jasmine Edwards, you head of English from school in Birmingham. I'm going to steal your idea as well. I am going to share at least one resource or blog or idea a month on Twitter. Number 5, and again, I'm very wary that a lot of schools and departments will do this already as natural good practice. I need to improve it myself, and I need to take the exams myself that the students are doing. Now, within the system that I am, I know the exams in advance, not at year 13 level. However, year 7 to year all the way up to year 12, I know the exams that they're going to sit. And like I say, it all leads towards the European bac. The most important years are year 12 and year 13. The S4, S5, the year 11, year 10, year 11. In other words, the GCSE years, the exams are all planned in-house and we already know what they're going to be. But I need to sit down and I need to do these exams in the same conditions that the students do them in. With a pen, with a line paper. If it's 45 minutes to do some creative writing or narrative writing, etc., descriptive piece, I need to sit down and I am going to do it in that time as well. And I just think it enhances your teaching so much, and I don't do it often enough. True, time is an issue. Of course, we are under so much stress and from every direction trying to do things, but it does really improve my teaching when I sit down and again verbalising the thought process that I go through as well. And I guess I was going to put this as a separate resolution, but it's probably something that, well, it actually leads quite nicely onto this as well. You can add it to the second part of this one, really. I'm going to model more. This year, I'm going to model more. I know it's good practice. I know I do it already, but I don't think I do it enough. I need to be... I mean, there's been some times where I actually... I would say that last year, about 30% of the time, maybe a third of the time, I would do an essay the same time as the kids, the same time as the students, be that in English or sociology. As I say, about 15% of my lessons are sociology as well. And I would sit down and I would write the essay in that time. And I would always make sure I did it in pen or with the Apple Pencil, in handwritten anyway, and that I never that I never rubbed anything out, that I crossed it out and changed the word. And I could show the mistakes that I was making when I was going through at the same time. I've done it on the board quite a few times. It gives you a hell of a dead arm, I tell you that, writing on the board a full essay. And I'm sure lots of you have done this before, but I prefer sitting down with the iPad, and I need to do it so much more as well. So I'm gonna bunch these two together, but I'm gonna start taking the exams more in advance, because in a way it is going to allow me a nice model as well. And I think the kids just really appreciate it more than anything else. They appreciate it and they respect you for it. You know, anybody can stand at the front of the class and say, right, today's session, 45 minutes, write about a special memory you had. Away you go. You know, I've been in the earlier years of my career, maybe in cover lessons, for example, or I'm not saying that is a lesson that I would do in isolation, or an activity I'd do in isolation, but that kind of vein, and you just set the students off with something like that, and we sit down and we mark or we go through something, I don't know, but imagine the amount. Would you do that in any other subject? Just let them go off and with a sentence and just go off and write an assessment piece. You know, would you do that in any other subject without any kind of scaffolding, modelling, etc. whatsoever? But for some reason, I see it far too often in writing. You know, a sentence. There you go. That's your. Sit down. I mean, just consider yourselves for a moment. The amount of processes that are going on in your mind to try and work out how to structure and compose an essay that's talking about a special memory. Never mind the psychological and the emotional attachment that comes to that as well. And I think as teachers, and as English teachers specifically, again, I'm going as specifically as English teachers, we need to write more. And I know we don't have the time. I know we're probably gonna lose something. We're gonna miss deadlines, and it's gonna push something else out of our overcrowded schedule. But sitting down and doing the activities that the students need to do themselves, putting yourself in their shoes more is something we need to do, and is definitely something more I need to do. And bearing in mind, these are my New Year's resolutions. I'm not saying that there are people, I'm probably the only English teacher that, no, I'm not saying I don't model. But I don't model enough. And I'm sure lots of people do. But anyway, that's my number 5 anyway. Now seems like a good a time as ever to read out a few tweets. Remember, you can get involved with the conversation at TT Radio Official. Notice we've got a new handle there, at TT Radio Official. Or by my personal handle, at Jeff_Pedley, at JEFF_PEDLEY. You can send us a tweet, you can send us a message. We try our best to read them out. There's a tweet here from Fran Golden Tree Eng, an English teacher here. I don't know where she's from actually, but an English teacher. Happy New Year. My resolution this year is to become more involved with the learning process, i.e. to use techniques and methods that cater specifically to students' needs rather than conventions or agendas. Robert Bob has tweeted, I have a French husband and he's a teacher of French. I'm lazy and bad at languages, but I'm now eligible to apply for French nationality. But I have to speak French for the interview. Guess what my New Year's resolution is? Maybe a bit lastminute.com there. But again, this idea of learning French, it resonates quite a lot with me. I've been trying to learn French and Dutch for the last 5 years now, and I haven't been applying myself correctly. My wife is, as I say, I live in Flanders. My wife is Dutch speaking, Flemish as a first language, and I work in Brussels every day in a European school where there are 9 different language sections: French, German, Dutch, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, Finnish, Swedish, English, French, to name maybe all of them. And I've got an amazing opportunity every day to improve my English. Probably improve my English as well, but to improve my languages, and I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it as well as I should. Dutch and French are priorities this year. Dutch and French are priorities this year for me personally. Hopefully I will be able to do a podcast in Dutch next year. How about that? How about a Teachers Talk Radio in Dutch? That would be more than that's a good barometer of how far I've come. Anyway, another tweet here from Dwayne Reed, who's at Teach Mr. Reed. He says his New Year's teacher resolution is to stop erasing boards with the side of his hand. Yeah, as good as one as ever. And I need to make sure that I do it. So one thing I like about my classroom over here in Brussels is they have sinks in the classroom. Sinks in every room. Amazing. In the cupboard as well. Sinks in a cupboard in every room. And so, yeah, no excuses. No excuses for keeping the classroom clean. And remember, if you have any of your own New Year's resolutions you would like to share, please do tweet in at TT Radio Official. Anyway, back to my own. Here I am. I'm feeling very lonely tonight, just talking by myself. As I say, this is my first ever solo show. I'm quite enjoying it, though. Quite enjoying it. Number 6, we are up to... I've had this resolution for a few years as well, but organise my resources. It feels, and I think I need to come at this from 2 different angles. So, like most teachers in the last 10 years or so, most of my resources are now electronical. And I have pen drives and memory drives and things that go back a few years now. I've changed laptops, etc, etc. The first part of this is to really organise all my old resources as well, and it's a bit like hoarding, isn't it? As well, I guess you can electronically hoard. You keep these resources here. You know your teacher has improved. You know your presentations and your delivery and your just construction of resources have improved. But still, you hang on to your Macbeth PowerPoints from 2005. And as much as the content doesn't change all the time. You know, as English teachers, we do as much as our texts change and, you know, and our focus change, quite a lot of the skills that we teach stay exactly the same. Just as a side note, there's a book by Stephen King. The name eludes me at the moment, but it's when a guy finds a time portal in a diner close to him, and I think he's an English teacher from something like the 2000s, and he goes back to the late 50s. Anyway, he goes in this time loop, and he keeps swapping between them. And somebody says to him, like, "What are you doing for money? What job are you doing when you travel back to the 50s, etc.?" And he says, "Well, I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just an English teacher." And it really stood with me, this. He was like, "Yeah, I'm just going back and I'm just teaching Shakespeare the same as I was doing in 2000." And it kind of struck me a little bit at how little our content has changed over the years, and our skills as well, our reading and writing. Of course, we're far more experienced in how we do this, but imagine that you could travel back to your job 70 years or so and still do the same one. But anyway, as a side note, I've got all of these resources from way, way, way back, and I just need to sort them out. How do you sort out your resources when you've kind of been overloaded in them? And I think this is my second part of this. I need to get into a better routine at saving and organising the immediate resources. I'm pretty good. I'm okay. I would say I'm like maybe 3/4 of the resources that I have get filed accordingly. But still, 25% of files floating around in the hard drive somewhere is still quite a high number to then have to go back, and it creates a bit of a backlog. And I think, so the two parts to this resolution really is, number one, I need to go back and organise all my electronic resources. Number two, I need to get into a better routine of organising the ones that come in and just making sure that they're filed straight away. Sorry, this is I hope you're not asleep. I know this is quite a boring New Year's resolution, but again, it's something that I definitely need to do. If anyone's worked out a good process of doing that, I would like to know. But I think you just need to do it in the moment. From a physical point of view, I've got a hell of a lot of English textbooks. Again, the content of the English textbooks is not always the best. You know, it gets dated. English textbooks seem to get dated really, really quickly. Especially, they seem to get dated quicker and quicker, especially with the speed of technology and new apps and new programs we have nowadays. However, there are some tasks that seem to last the tale of time, and normally to do with narrative writing, etc., creative writing, normally those resources seem to last quite well. So I've got probably dozens, 40, 50 English textbooks that go back throughout the years. And again, I am a bit of a hoarder. People who know me, they know that I'm a little bit of a hoarder. But at the same time, will I ever use them? I don't know. I don't actually know where I'm going with this, but I'm keeping them until I die and my children have to sort them out, I guess. On that happy note, I actually think I'm up to number 8 now in my resolutions. So anyway, number 8 in my New Year's resolution, specifically for an English teacher. 2 parts to this, but I want to... Again, it's to do with my own CPD. I want to reinstate myself to NATE, the National Association of Teachers of English, and I also want to be involved more with the Teach Meets organisation as well, which generally works in partnership with Teachers Talk Radio anyway. But anyway, so number 8 really is to keep improving my own CPD. I don't know why I say my own. CPD's personal anyway. It's like people who say PIN number, isn't it? But anyway, to improve my CPD. So, if you are not sure of what NATE is, like I say, and you're an English teacher, please subscribe to it. Please get yourself involved in it. It's the National Association of Teachers of English. They publish magazines. And they've got some amazing texts as well, some amazing articles. But again, I'm just going to have a quick look at specifically what they have out from the most recent issues. Race in the English Classroom, thematic curriculums for Key Stage 3, Daring to be a Writer. Some really good articles, as I say, within the Teaching English magazine. It says Teaching English established essential reading for all teachers of English. Now, I was subscribed for a long time in England, but now that I'm working abroad, of course, I'll have to subscribe as through the overseas subscription. But at the same time, there's so many things within the magazines that actually apply to my class that actually, enhances my lessons. Likewise, if you haven't heard of the Teach Meets or the Teach Meet setup, the organisation, there's Teach Meets are basically gatherings which occur generally in the northwest of England, in Manchester normally, and they get together lots and lots of professionals from a specific subject, sharing good practice, doing presentations. There's a social aspect as well, and they just seem absolutely amazing for pushing your career forward. I would love to be a part of the English one. I think last year I watched it via YouTube because, of course, being in Belgium. It'd be interesting to see when the English Teach Me is this year, and maybe see if I can get myself across for it. But it's definitely something that I want to be more active with, alongside being more active in NATE as well. And again, when you think about CPD, there is so much CPD out there. Some of variable quality, isn't there? You've got things such as Teachers Talk Radio, which have some really specific and some amazing experts on, which I really like from a CPD point of view. And again, even within Twitter. But then and then you've got these Teach Meets, but then on the other scale, you've got some of variable quality as well. I'm thinking about some of the CPD sessions I've had at schools. But anyway, definitely something that I'm going to put more effort in. Resubscribing to NATE, and making sure that I read and absorb some of the, critically of course, the ideas that are put forward, and secondly, being more active within the Teach Meets English organisation as well. My 9th resolution is probably more personal than English teacher specific. However, I no doubt think that it's a resolution, or a dream anyway, that a lot of English teachers harbour. And don't want to be big-headed or anything, but I just want to write a novel. I have been planning a novel for years and years, doing the research, contextual reading for a long time now, and I just want to sit down and write it. And now that I'm working within a system that allows a bit of a work-life balance, it's something that I'm definitely going to try and do within this year. We're in what we're on now, the 5th of January, and I've already started quite a lot of my resolutions, and they're going, as you would expect, 5 days in, very well. But again, finding time to sit down and write is something that I struggle to do. I'm one of these people who needs the conditions to be perfect before I do anything. I don't know if it's a form of ADHD or whatever, but I struggle to focus, of course, as well. And you can probably tell in my ramblings sometimes on the radio. And I just want to get into a routine where I write a little bit every week. Maybe not every day, but every week at least. Alongside this resolution, I think is definitely going to be that I need to read more as well. And I alluded to earlier on, I had a mini Twitter spat with somebody earlier this week when I put up a book that I was reading, my first book of the year, which, let me find it, it's just on the side of my desk here. Yeah, so I put up a tweet earlier this week saying that I was starting to yeah, starting to read a little bit more this year. And I was starting with Will Storr, The Science of Storytelling. And I've set myself a target of 50 books. My target is actually 50 pages a day. And I had some not so nice replies underneath it. Oh, I can't believe I've never understood these people who set themselves targets for reading, and these people who try and quantify rather than qualify the reading. And that's not what I was getting at. I wasn't trying to show off with how much I was reading. I wasn't trying to boast with the amount of books I was trying to read. If anything, it's for my own self-discipline to try and get me reading more. I have so many good books in my house and so many texts that I know I'm never going to get to read that are in front of me, and I just need to sort of discipline myself a bit more. So saying 50 books, which is basically around 50 pages a day, really. I was expecting was kind to do that for me. But anyway, it started a bit of a mini Twitter debate about these people who like to boast the amount of books they're reading. But anyway, by the by, number 9 is definitely to write more and read more. Nice and simple, but maybe in practice not as straightforward. And finally, number 10, my 10th resolution, specific as an English teacher, is to be more kinesthetic in my lessons. I want to give my students more practical experiences. And I think I am higher than average in the occasions that I take students, that I do something physical or practical with students, you know. I'm always bringing props into lessons and like I say, resources, physical resources. I've done some amazing lessons where I've not self-righteous and boasting, but I've really sat down. One of my favourite lessons I've ever taught is when I completely black out a classroom, put a fireplace on a wall, and read the Red Room. I give all the students candles, and one by one we put them out until we're in pitch darkness, and then I switch off the fire or the TV at the end, and then I read the last paragraph when we're in complete. I know it off by heart in the darkness at the end, and I splatter some blood on my head as well, making sure I'm wearing a white shirt. Sorry, I know that sounds like a hell of a lot of planning, and it is. That's why I say I know I said amazing there, but it is one of those one-off lessons that you do once every couple of years or 3 years or so when we're teaching the Red Room. But anyway, I do like to give my students some really practical experiences, but I still don't think I give them enough. I still don't think I don't go on many school trips, I have to say, compared to other teachers in my department. I live in Brussels now. I'm surrounded by culture and, you know, and deep culture as well in every direction, from art to music to architecture. And I think I need to make sure this year that I give my students more experiences outside of the classroom. From an English point of view, there is so much that you can then bring back into the classroom. You know, I'm thinking back to my university days and my learning about Kolb's cycle of, I think it's his cycle of experience, I can't remember exactly, but where it goes from concrete to abstract experiences round in a cycle, and that's how we create, that's how we learn, that's how we create meaning. And like I say, I would love to, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make sure that my students have more kinesthetic, more experiences outside of the classroom. I think this might be an episode that I come back to and I have to review in December. And I'm going to make a little note somewhere to come back to this episode and review and see how I do with these 10 things over the year. But anyway, just a little, like any good teacher, I'm going to do a quick recap of what I've said today, and I hope that you've you've enjoyed this little ramble, especially if you teach English. And as I've said before, what are your English teacher resolutions? Remember, you can tweet at TT Radio Official or me at Jeff_Pedley, JEFF_PEDLEY. I would love to hear from you. But anyway, my first one was to develop my breadth and depth of Key Stage 3 texts. I'm going to be reading a lot of young adult novels this year, I think. Number 2 was and especially outside of the usual canon as well. Number 2 was to improve my understanding and application of technology. I am pretty good, I think, technology-wise, but I do want to move this forward a lot more. Number 3, something I do already but need to be more consistent. Make sure that I'm always putting key vocabulary and key concepts on the board. Number 4, I'm going to do the exams with students a lot more. I am going to make sure that I attempt especially creative writing, narrative, descriptive questions a lot more with students. The analysis questions and all are by the by, but as I say, make sure that I put myself through the exam experience a little bit more this year. Number 5, I'm going to share more. Taking on that tweet that I read out earlier on, I'm going to make sure that I at least once a month share a good resource or maybe a blog or an idea that has worked really, really well for me. Number 6, I'm going to make sure I model more. I do this already, but not maybe consistently enough. Make sure that I'm doing this. I feel like I'm in a mentor meeting and explaining my next steps. But anyway, number 7, I'm going to organise my resources. And remember, I'm going to do this from 2 different ways. Number 1, going back into the past, being ruthless, trying to stop hoarding, getting rid of those old out-of-date PowerPoints, which have been improved and adapted. And secondly, making sure that I am better at placing current resources correctly into files. Number 9, I'm going to take a bit more accountability for my CPD, specifically by subscribing to Nate, and also by being more active and proactive within the Teach Meets meetings, specifically for English, maybe also for sociology, I don't know, but specifically, definitely for English. Number 9, a very simple one, but maybe practically not that easy. I'm going to read and write more, as I've just said. And finally, number 10, which I've just alluded to there, is I'm going to make sure that my students have more of a kinesthetic, more out of the classroom experiences, and I'm very wary that kinesthetic and out of the classroom experiences are not the same. However, I just mean to maybe push my lessons a little bit away from the reading and writing sometimes, and a little bit more physical in some kind of aspect, whether that be within the classroom or an experience out of it. Anyway. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed some of my New Year's resolutions there, and as I've said a few times, I'd love to hear some of your own. Thank you for the people who tweeted, who I read out earlier in the show as well. It just basically leaves me to say I look forward as well to being more active on Teachers Talk Radio this year. My show is every Thursday night at 9 o'clock. Greenwich Mean Time, GMT anyway, and like I say, I've had some amazing guests on my show in 2022. I think I did a tweet last week of some of my top 10 favourite guests, and they ranged from Anthony Swan, who was Teacher of the Year in Virginia last year, and he was an amazing, inspirational guest to have on, all the way through colleague. I remember speaking with one of my old colleagues, Steph Mitchell, who is head of English at Lancaster Grammar, and we explored exciting text to teach as well, interesting text to teach, favourite, and yeah, and I really enjoyed my time with James Swan as well over the last year. I think I did about three or four shows with him over last year, which again, and I'm looking forward to presenting more shows with him this year. Please go on to Podbean, go on to Spotify, listen to all of the previous shows, that I did last year, and also check out some shows of some people that maybe you haven't listened to that much. Maybe your New Year's resolution to have a little bit more of a listen to Teachers Talk Radio. For example, we're back now, fresh, ready to go for the new year. Next year, tomorrow on Friday the 6th, we've got John Gibbs on at 11 o'clock in the morning. We've got a massive weekend planned of shows. On Saturday, we've got Darren Lester on at 9 o'clock. 5 p.m, we've got Eugene. We've got 8 p.m. on Spaces on Twitter, we've got Reem. Ibrahim, and like I say, all of these shows you can catch up on, and lots of shows within Podbean as well. Of course, Sunday the 8th, we've got Caroline on at 9 o'clock in the morning. We've got Yasmin on at 11. Brett Poland and Adam, I love his shows, on at 1 o'clock as well on a Sunday. And Maud at 5 o'clock. And then Shanika at 8 o'clock on Sunday. So we've got a really, really busy weekend. Thank you so much for listening to us today. As always, you can keep in contact with us at TT Radio Official. Have a lovely rest of the evening, what's left of it, and I look forward to seeing you, well, not seeing you, but speaking to you, let's spit this out, speaking to you next week, Thursday, 9 o'clock on The Late Late Show. Bye bye.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, a leading publisher of books, directories, educational guides and magazines specifically aimed at forward-thinking schools in the UK and beyond. Have you checked out their latest releases? Don't miss out! Visit johncattbookshop.com to explore their full range of titles and advance your own professional development today. Happy reading!